On today's show, we check in with a Sens Central citizen discussing his experience at the Spring Members Summit.
And we continue our 2024 NHL Draft Prospect Profiles. We're in the top 10. Let's go. We're getting close.
We also have one of my top choices for the Sens at number 7. That's all coming up on today's Locked On Sens.
I'm Jake Sanderson.
I'm Tim Stützle, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
You're Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome! You are locked on to the Ottawa Senators, your only daily podcast covering the Sens. I'm Ross Levitan in the outskirts of enemy territory, while Brandon Pillar is up in the Blue Mountains. Ever dreamed of becoming an NHL GM and managing your hockey franchise? Well, now you can with Ultimate Hockey GM. It's completely free, and Locked On listeners get a 100% free boost to their franchise when using promo code LOCKEDONNHL in the game store. To download the game, just visit hockeygm.app or look it up on the app stores. Ultimate Hockey GM, start your dynasty today. You can also follow the show on social media. We're at Sens Central on Twitter. You can find the show wherever you get podcasts, including on YouTube, where we are free and available. A like, comment, and subscription go a long way to helping the show grow. Today is Friday, June 14th, and Pilsy, 2 Fridays from now, we've got the NHL Draft in Las Vegas.
Yeah, I'm so fired up. It can't come any sooner, Ross. It's going to be hot in Vegas, but the draft is going to be an absolute blast. The Sphere is going to be an experience like no other. And Ross, we're getting into territory where some of the players we're profiling here could be realistic picks for the Sens at 7. So I'm fired up.
Even yesterday's picks with Beckett Seneke we did, as well as Carter Yakemchuk. Make sure you check us out on YouTube for all these draft profiles, 80 of them. And they're the perfect resource on draft night. So just pull it up, and when a player gets picked, boom, you have all the insight you need to how it affects your team or your rival's team. So there's lots of excitement coming up for the draft. Tons of excitement with the Senators offseason as well. What changes will occur? Well, not only on the ice, but also off the ice around the Canadian Tire Center. So for more Nick Spence, Sens Central citizen, you know him from the chat on the postcast. He was at the event, and he joins us now to discuss what he learned about the team going forward. All right, as promised, a full recap of the Senators Spring Members Summit. Many season ticket holders on the CTC floor, elbowing each other, trying to get the best deals for jerseys, merch, and a whole lot more. Plus, Dave Poulin and Cyril Leader got to speak to everyone about what to expect in the years to come, both on ice with Pooley and off ice with Cyril Leader. We have a boots on the ground citizen with us. It's Nick Spence. Welcome back to the show, fella. How are you?
Very good, Ross. Good, Pilsy, to see you. It's wonderful to be back. Love doing this. So glad I can help. And I knew right away when they invited me, I got to do show correspondent here, right? I kind of wanted like the microphone going there, have Graham do a little thing, but didn't work out that way.
Oh, you two would have made an absolute tag team. Future idea alert, though. We got to get in on that. Now,
I love that.
Was this just an email invitation? How long of notice did you have, and what were your expectations going in?
So they sent out an email a week before the event saying, hey, we're doing this thing for season ticket holders. You can register and submit questions, and then we'll send you a ticket the day before the event. So they gave us about 4 days before the registration closed. Expectations for it. I honestly, I saw the sale thing, and you see sale and you go, okay, yeah, it's going to be like 30% off. It's not going to be anything fancy. And everything else they were describing, it sounded like, you just kind of your basic meet and greet, talk to a few people, to answer some basic questions. I didn't think it would be anything too fancy. I kind of thought it would be in like Berks or something, right? Because they usually do those events in like one of the small restaurants or in conference room or something. There was 1,500 people there for it. Like they did it in the arena proper, and the sale was insane. I like $20 for a jersey. People were just grabbing without looking at what they were taking, right? They're like, I'm never going to see this price again. I don't care what player this is. Let's go.
Brian Gibbons. You got Oscar Lindbergh jerseys flying off the shelves. You got Johnny Oduya over there.
Oh, they have the Terran Pfizer. They've got game-worn Nikita Zaitsev, which stayed on the rack a long time. It was only $75. That's not bad for game-worn.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous, even with Zaitsev. But yeah, like expectations, I don't know. I was kind of figured it'd be something to do. It was nice that they were reaching out to season ticket holders in June. I'd rather be going to CTC for something else this time of year, but beggars can't be choosers. But it exceeded everything. Like, I thought it was fantastic. The presentation, getting us to walk through, like we did the players' entrance, then you go through the weight room, the change rooms, see where the coaches are and everything. A lot of it's being renovated right now. There's some hard hat areas only.
Yep.
But like, it was just a good event. Like, there was tons going on there. It was so good to see so many people invested this time of year.
Now, talk about the vibe of it all, because this is kind of the first time the new regime is really opening up the doors to the fans and saying, all right, here's the old CTC as you know it, but here's our plans for the new things. We got exciting things. We're taking questions. Like, Nick, what did you get a sense from the new regime that was maybe different than how things were before?
They want to talk to us.
Yeah, I mean, that's a start. Yeah.
They want us there. There's no like hiding, right? They were accessible. Like, the guys were around. You had Chris Phillips, Chris Neal, Zach McEwen, the guys from marketing, like everyone was kind of around and available. Dean and Gord were talking to people. Cyril Leader and Dave were kind of in and out quick. I think they seem very busy right now. But like, the access to just talk to people and kind of voice your concerns and things you'd like to see was so refreshing compared to previous regimes where maybe nobody wanted to talk to anyone other than Dorian, who was pretty sociable with everyone. But the rest of it was kind of cloak and dagger, right? Like, you didn't talk to anyone. You didn't get anything out of anyone. So it was very refreshing. They were very honest. I thought Dave Poulin gave some fantastic answers to questions. Like, he's very, I mean, you guys know, you've talked to him plenty of times. He's very forthcoming with how he feels. He's not secretive. Like, he tells you what he's thinking. His quotes about like the goaltending was bad, and the goaltenders would tell you it's bad too. Like, he was very honest about things need to be better and we need to change. We need veterans. So it was nice to get management kind of telling us where they're at. It was nice to get access to the marketing people. Like, we had guys, you just go up and tell them what you think. Like, hey, I don't like this concession. Have you considered Shawarma Palace? Like, it's great. You just talk to them about whatever you want. So that was good. And Cyril Leader is always just a delight. Like, it's so good to have him back and doing things because he really cares about it. And again, honest answers. Like, it was refreshing. I'm filled with hope for the future. It may not be quick, but I think things will be much better.
What was your biggest takeaway from it? Like, after all those questions, and I heard it was about an hour of kind of a Q&A type environment, but what was the most important answer that you heard as a season ticket holder?
He made a comment about we have pillars, and he mentioned about Brady Tkachuk, Tim Stützle, and Jake Sanderson being like the guys. Like, they're not going anywhere.
There was a reply on a tweet that said that and said, you forgot about our Brandon pillar that we have right here.
Is our guy Graham, sensual.
I think that was Graham. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, that answer, I love that answer because especially with all the off-season mock trades going around right now and everything. Like, Brady's going nowhere, Timmy's going nowhere, Jake is going nowhere. Those three are untouchable. Everyone else, I don't know. I think there's probably scenarios where stuff happens, but it was good to hear that those three, like, they're going to be here. They're not going anywhere. They're part of the solution. So that one was really good. There's one other thing he said. It wasn't like an important thing or whatever, but just Cyril Leader is a funny guy sometimes. He made a comment about the new metal detectors that are like 47 times faster or whatever, right? Like, you can walk through and you don't have to empty your pockets and everything. And he's explaining them. And someone had said something like, well, what about what? Like, I couldn't hear it because it was muffled, but they said something and he responded, well, if your packet heats, it's going to know. Like, he makes just a casual comment about packet heat. And like, I loved it. So yeah, I think the three pillars that was the biggest one for me for sure.
Now, we saw your picture on Twitter of the Shawarma Palace concession stand. Now, the picture, it looks awesome there, but did they kind of give any more info on that? Like, what's that going to be like?
Pilsy.
Dude, that's team place, man.
No spoilers yet, man. That's at the Red Blacks game.
That's at the Red Blacks game.
Oh, I thought that was at the CTC.
Maybe one day.
Maybe one day. Maybe one day. A lot of people were mentioning that to the marketing guy.
Damn.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought you were leading into that. You asked them about it, then they revealed it. So we still gotta wait.
Dude, that would have been all time if they had been like, actually, we got it over here.
Yeah, I thought that's what was happening. That's hilarious.
They did mention a lot of concession stuff. They're looking towards more healthier food options. They're going to add like a jerk
Shawarma
chicken
Palace.
thing. I know. One step at a time. They got to get the idea in their head.
Yep. So off-ice stuff. Final question for me, Nick, and appreciate the insight onto this. It sounds like, new elevators, brighter lights again. Heard there was a complaint from the league before they brightened it up in there. That's hilarious in a very sad way. New arena, dare I ask what the update was on that?
He said it's work in progress. It's not going to be soon. So they were stressing, why would we invest in the building we're in if we're leaving soon? He sounded like we're 3-4 years away from that really being a possibility. So I think we got 5 more years at least in the CTC.
Yeah, we're the Bruno Caboclo of hockey arenas. We're 2 years away from being 2 years away, and it feels like it's been that way for the last 10 years.
Well, they have a deadline coming up in September, I think.
Yeah.
To sign a deal with the NCC, right? So I think we'll get something then. But yeah, it sounds like it's far away, and they're willing to put money into the CTC to make it better in the meantime. So again, it's very refreshing that they want to do this. Leader had a little dig at Melnick at one point about some very much needed upgrades, right? Like he said, we're very far behind in the CTC on a few things. So they're spending the money.
CTC is always going to have a very, very big place in my heart. So I'm glad to see they're doing the right thing. I love the cold water, but did they bring that up? Is there going to be hot water at the CTC?
No mention of water, but they did say get ready for some surprises opening night. So
Shawarma Palace concession stand?
I'm hoping for Shawarma Palace concession stand, hot water. I'm thinking maybe some kind of projection onto the ice might be in the cards.
Nice.
They upgrade the presentation a little bit there. They did mention they're going to have live acts every single game.
Whoa,
so I don't know if that means DJ Prosper still, if he counts as a live act, or if they're going all bands and stuff. Like, because they had a lot more last year. It wasn't just DJ Prosper every single game. So
yeah,
more of that. They're bigger and better theme nights. They're waiting on the schedule. They said they kept stressing they're waiting on the schedule because they want to hammer out the best days to do things.
Not to be a Debbie Downer, I've heard the schedule's not going to be very fun for the Ottawa Senators next year again. Now, outside circumstances, the World Juniors happening over the holidays, so the Sens will have to vacate for that. So there'll be a long road trip around Christmas, and we'll see. But last year they had home games all at the start of the season, so I don't know. Play the games in front of you. We're not going to Europe, so at least there's that.
Yeah, exactly. As long as they're not sending us to Europe for 2 weeks, we're good.
Yeah.
Although the Sens are like 5-0-1 in Europe. It's after that's the problem.
Yeah. Going to Europe was never the problem. Yeah, it was coming home. That's the issue.
I can't go to the games in Europe. It doesn't help me.
Now, final question for me here, Nick, is they had a player announcement this time. No, it wasn't the richest contract in franchise history like the Tim Stützle announcement. But, however, it was still an announcement. Angus Crookshank, 1-year extension. What was the reaction to that news? And what did Pooley and anyone else have to say about Crookshank?
So reaction was good. Fans, cheered. They like Crooker. I think he's popular with the season ticket holders. Poulin they kind of threw us for a second, right? Because Dean and Gord are doing the interview. In the end, they're winding down. They go, "Well, do you have anything to give the guys, like a signing maybe?" And right away, I'm like, "Here we go. Let's do it. Let's go Pinto. Let's." Wasn't quite Pinto. They like Crooker. Like, I think they see him going for a bottom 6 role this year. I don't think the plan is Belleville. I think they really would like him to be like 3rd line, 4th line, everyday kind of player. I think he's ready to. Like, he showed last year he belonged. They seem like they're really high on Crooker, and I mean, it would make sense. It's the first one they've signed, pretty much, right? Like, they haven't. Everyone else is RFA or is on board.
Yep. No, we like that. It's just, I mean, a matter of where's he going to fit in, and until they get those veterans, they keep telling us are coming. It's hard to kind of slot of what's available up front. But one thing we know for sure, Nick Spence will be up in 319, 320. Where are you at?
320.
320, yes.
It's a good section.
Elite section.
Yep.
Get the logo facing the right way, and Sens fans all around. I'm already looking forward to the home opener. Nick, I know we'll see you there, and let's catch up again this summer. Maybe after Dev Camp, we can get some boots on the ground thoughts after you see the next crop of young Senators prospects. But as always, we appreciate you for coming on and letting everyone know what you got to see at the CTC.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for having me, guys. And for sure, we'll do something with Dev Camp. Maybe me and Graham can put something silly together and have some fun for you.
Stick taps to Nick for joining us. Really fun conversation. And now we turn our attention back to our NHL draft rankings. Konsta Helenius and a son of a Hall of Famer. That's all next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Ultimate Hockey GM. Hey, Locked On Sens fans, I want to take a moment to bring up one of our partners, the mobile game Ultimate Hockey GM. Have you ever dreamed of being an NHL GM and managing your hockey franchise? Do you think you could run the Ottawa Senators better than Steve Stamkos? Well, your dream can come true. Or Pierre Dorion. Manage every strategic aspect of your team, play through the seasons, and lead it to glory. Hire the right coaches and staff, trade picks or players, navigate through agency and the draft, of course, all in a challenging and realistic game world. As Sens fans, you know there's no off season. There's no off season here at LOSP. GMs are constantly making moves at every point of the year to improve their team's chances, and that's why I think you're going to love this game. Ultimate Hockey GM, completely free, and you can play it offline as well, so you can play on the go when and wherever you want to. Locked On Network listeners get a 100% free boost to their franchise when using the promo code Locked On NHL in the game store. So make sure to check it out. To download the game, visit hockeygm.app or look it up in the app stores. Ultimate Hockey GM, start your dynasty today.
Today's episode is also brought to you by our great friends at GLEBE Central Pub. Were you at the Red Blacks game last night? Would have been a perfect opportunity to head down the street and visit our friends at the GLEBE Central Pub. They're there for you before the game, and they're open until 2 a.m. every night of the week. They also have great events at the GLEBE Central Pub, which you can, by the way, find at 779 Bank Street, right in the heart of the Glebe. They've got live music every Saturday night, including this upcoming Saturday, June 15th. It's Victor Nezrella. He's going to be rocking the stage at the GCP. They've also got movie nights now every Tuesday and Sunday, showtime at 10:30. They are going to be rocking out with the classics. They've also got some deals coming up this summer for all Euro 2024 games, all Copa America games, and Atletico Ottawa matches, plus the Olympics will be on the screen this summer at the GCP. Of course, they've got all the screens with sound on the Stanley Cup Final and more. It's all at the GLEBE Central Pub. So make sure you head to the GLEBE Central Pub, have a smash burger, have some wings every Monday, 75-cent wings. It's all at the GCP. The vibes are free at the GCP. Let them know that Locked On Senators sent you. We appreciate you going and having a great time at the GLEBE Central Pub. All right. A reminder, you can follow the show on Twitter at Sens Central. We are on Instagram at lockedon.senators. Pilsy, before we get to today's draft profiles, where have you drawn the tier that ends for the Senators pick? Because I heard you mention these guys could be available. How far back in our rankings are you going? Would Carter Yakemchuk, Beckett Seneke, Cole Eiserman, would these types of players also fit in at 7? Or are we now just sinking our teeth into some real options now?
I think we're really getting into the prime options now, Ross. I think I would draw the line at yesterday's episode with Beckett Seneke and Carter Yakemchuk. As much as I love Michael Brandsegg-Nygaard, I don't think he's a guy you could reach for at 7. If you're looking for a guy like him, someone we're about to profile would fit the bill. And Cole Eiserman's not the guy for the Sens. So I think yesterday's episode is where I would draw that line. But even Seneke and Yakemchuk, I think, are on the outside looking in a little bit. Now, if the Sens did go that route, I could convince myself, fine pick, nothing wrong with it. But I think you're leaving a lot of talent on the board. Once we start looking into today's players and players moving forward, it's going to be damn near impossible to let a group of these guys slip. So we're in the territory. That's for damn sure.
Right? We've gotten to the point now where it's like we are nitpicking these guys because there's such good prospects. It really does feel, and we talked, and we'll do this more in our mock draft that's coming up with all of our experts. Cam Robinson from Elite Prospects was great with us. Rachel Dory. We've got Jerome Berube and Brock Otten, not to mention Scott Wheeler, who gave us about an hour and 40 minutes of his time recording picks 9 through 16. So all of that will come out, and the information that we're gathering too is like, look, you were a lottery team. You didn't make the playoffs. You're going to get a great player. It feels like it's 16, 17 players deep, but we've kind of narrowed that even closer to about 12 or 13 that could be options for the Senators at pick number 7. All right, coming in at number 11 on our Locked On Senators NHL draft rankings, a player that's been playing pro hockey in Finland for the better part of the last 2 seasons. It's centerman Konsta Helenius.
Konsta Helenius is a pro prospect. He puts the pro in prospect. I just came up with that right now. But there's a lot to like about this player. Anytime you have a guy in their draft year play exclusively in a men's pro league, like not getting bumped down to U20 or MHL or Allsvenskan or whatever junior league you want to talk about, Konsta Helenius spent the entire time in Liga. 51 games, 14 goals, 22 assists, good for 36 points. And then he stepped it up even more in the playoffs. In 6 playoff games, he had 2 goals, 4 assists, 6 points, a point per game guy in the playoffs. Now, he did get an opportunity to spend small sample sizes in other leagues and other competitions internationally, as Ross in the U18s. He had 7 assists in 5 games. Then at the World Juniors, certainly an underwhelming performance, especially from scouts that wanted to see him in a big stage. Only 2 points in 7 games in the World Juniors. And then 4 games in the World Championships, only 1 assist. So a little underwhelming there as well, which is unfortunate. That's kind of the last viewing scouts got of him there. But all you need to do is go back to that 51 games, 36 points in Liga this year, and you can really tell that this guy's a gamer and he's a very mature prospect.
It's super impressive what he's been able to do against men, and I'm not going to hold it against him at the World Championships. It's such a long season that's had so much. I don't want to say highs and lows because the lows weren't that low even. It felt like a pretty consistent. He feels like a cerebral player. It's the heart rate's never going too high, too low. Now he's always working, so don't mistake that. I just mean he's cool and calm under pressure and makes smart plays. Craig Button is unbelievably high on him and his potential. He has him at 3rd on his list. Everyone else is a little bit more tight on what they think in their projection. Bob McKenzie has him at 9. Elite Prospects and Scott Wheeler at 11. McKeens and Peters at 13. And Corey Prodman at 14. So we are in definite range of Konsta Helenius with an average rank of 10.6. I love this player. Elite Prospects gave him shades of Elias Lindholm. I saw a bit of Sebastian Aho in his game, just so smart with the puck. I think he's going to need to play with a high-end offensive talent on the wing. And not to actually know what, I'm not going to spoil where he goes in our mock draft, but wherever he does go, I think he's just a perfect second line center. I don't think he has that number 1 star potential, but not every team needs that. If you just drafted, let's say, I'm trying to think of in this range in the draft, like what automatically came to my mind was you look at last year, like the Anaheims, the Columbuses, but they're drafting a little too high, but they both, with Leo Carlson and Adam Fantilli, they got their future number 1 guy. He just feels like he would slot in so perfectly as a number 2 guy who you start on a third line. He's already got this pro experience. I don't think it would overwhelm him after one more year in Europe to come over as a 19, 20-year-old and be able to play on a second, third line as a tweener. And then boom, I think you have a top 6 centerman. You're going to make this pick and know that there's a low risk that he's going to make the NHL and that he's going to do well when he gets there.
Yeah, I agree with you, Ross. I put in my notes, he's kind of the big brother to a Michael Brandsegg-Nygaard, right? Like you can sit back, make the pick, and be like, we know we got a gamer here. We know we got a guy that projects to play in the NHL. I really see his range, Ross, as being from 8 to, I'll say 13. Like, look at these teams. Seattle, they've got Matty Beniers and Shane Wright. Neither one of those guys has really solidified their spot, so they could look for a reliable centerman. You look at Calgary, shades of Elias Lindholm. They're looking for an Elias Lindholm. They just dealt one away, so it makes sense there for me. New Jersey, you talked about him playing a third line center role. He could play under Hischier and Hughes and learn a lot from them. And then you got Buffalo and Philly. Like, Buffalo has all these high-end talent potential guys, but they don't really have a lot of responsible players. And Helenius would do good there. And then Philly, I mean, they need everything. So for them just to sit back and be like, we got an NHLer, I think would be good for them. So there's so much to like.
He's got a bit of Daniel Briere in him, actually, too. Kind of undersized, but really good forward. Obviously, Briere probably a little shiftier, a little bit more enigmatic, if that's a word I could use there. But Helenius, it's like he's playing the game just on easy, even against men. Like, all the reads that Elite Prospects was noting, and Wheeler does as well. Like, I don't know how many different ways we can say he's mature beyond his years, and he's a May 06 birthday. So this guy's gonna be 18 for the entirety of next season. I think you have a lot of runway with this guy. The only question, Pilsy, what's the offensive potential? Can he be a 70, 80 point guy in the league?
I don't think so. I think this is a guy we're looking at with a high floor, low ceiling, and I mean that in an endearing way. I know
but comparably, right? Like his low ceiling is still way higher than a guy who we have at 20 or 30 on our list.
Ross, his floor is higher than some of those players' ceilings. Like, that's what I'm trying to get at. I'm not saying high floor, low ceiling as a negative comment. I'm saying that in an endearing way because he's already so far ahead of everyone else. EP calls him one of the smartest players in the draft. You guys know I love David St. Louis' Let's Watch videos from EP, and he shows multiple examples of Helenius confidently carrying the puck into the zone, maintaining possession, and what he does such a good job of is shoulder scanning, seeing where his teammates are, and he'll set a pick on the boards to have an opponent cover him, and he knows he's now created open space for his teammate, and he'll shift the puck over to his teammate, and now his teammate can keep the play going. Like, this is a guy that keeps things alive. He may not have the elite playmaking ability, he may not have elite scoring ability, but if you can set him up with a playmaker and a scorer, he's going to give them a lot of time in the offensive zone to do their magic. So I really think this is such a nice player to have in your prospect pipeline. He's winning puck battles against men consistently. Like, you don't get to see that a lot for prospects here. And I just think this is such a safe player that any team that drafts him is going to be comfortable knowing that they've got a guy and they don't have to worry too much about the potential swing here.
And Karpat beat them in the playoffs this year, but he still managed 6 points in 6 games, which is a historic figure. The only point per game players in Liga playoff history that are, I believe, draft eligible. Yes, draft eligible. This is courtesy of Elite Prospects Draft Guide. Alexander Barkov, ever heard of him? About to captain a Stanley Cup champion. Hope this doesn't age poorly as we're recording this after game 3. Panthers are up 3-0. Capo Caco and Mikael Granlund, who had some great years in the league as well. A little bit more undersized, though shifty of a player. I'm not comparing them stylistically, but production-wise, that's something that's going to open the eyes to scouts here. Not only was he able to stick in pro hockey all year, but then the odd time that he did go down, and that's in international tournaments only, 7 points in 5 games at the U18s. And like, he probably shouldn't have even been in that tournament. It's kind of like, why? But I believe they were hosting it. And they were like, okay, well, we want our best players. Of course you do. Had 7 assists, no goals. It was almost like it was like too easy for him to be going back to that level. I think a team's going to be super happy when they have Konsta Helenius in their organization. And like he's right around 10 for me, Pillsy. But if the Senators took him, I would want them to then take a bit of a swing at 25. But this could set up a team to do that because you're like, okay, we've got like he would be the Senators' number 1 prospect, and it wouldn't even be close. Like this,
sure.
and if look, I respect that he's going to play next season in Tapara, a really high-end Liga team. They had Patrick Laine. They've had some guys over the years. I would love this guy to be in Belleville and be the number 1 center under the wing of the organization. Could have a call-up if he needed to, but I understand that he's going to pay. He's under contract. He's going to play next year in Tapara. But if he does, and which I believe he will, this guy should never even sniff the AHL. He should just go right into the NHL. And he could be the surprise that at training camp next year, if he does even attend training camp, we know sometimes the Euros season starts earlier. This guy can make a roster, I think, if he's in the right situation as a third line center.
Yeah, it's not that crazy, Ross. So I gave him 4.5 stars out of 5. Love the player, but I just think with Ottawa's 7th overall pick, they got to be taking a swing here. I got nothing against safe picks when you're a contending team and you don't rely on prospects to change your franchise forever. The Ottawa Senators need to get a guy at 7th overall that could be franchise changing. And I just don't think Helenius has that upside. And I mean, you're looking at a team with Tim Stützle, Josh Norris, Shane Pinto, and Ridley Gregg in center depth. So if you're going to take a swing on a centerman, I want it to be a power swing and you're swinging for the fences. So but again, if you're a team that just drafted Helenius, you got a great player and there's nothing to be worried about.
Konsta Helenius comes in at number 11 on our Locked On Senators NHL draft rankings. For more, make sure you head over to YouTube and check out our 2024 draft playlist. All right, on the other side, we've made you wait months just prepping for the Tij Iginla player profile. That's next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. That's what brings home the winning trophy, and it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and even level it up to peak performance. They got superchargers, they got roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and so much more. So whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number 1 ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's guaranteed fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or you get your money back. It's that simple. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not burning cash. Turn all the parts you want at the prices you want. It's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that W. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit only available to U.S. customers. Check it out today, guys. eBay Motors.
All right, a reminder to follow us on social media at Sens Central. Be a friend, tell a friend, subscribe to Locked On Senators on your favorite podcast platform, including on YouTube. The road to 8,000 is underway. The goal is to have it by the draft. It's a lofty goal, but we think we can find 150 new citizens by then. We appreciate every single one of you who's been riding with us, listening, watching, engaging with the show. It certainly goes a long way to helping the show grow, and one day, the Senators will be competitive. And maybe drafting this next player could get them on their way. Coming in at number 10 on our Locked On Senators NHL draft rankings, you might have heard this before from Sens fans that they've taken players just because their dad was a great player. Well, let me tell you about Tij Iginla and the path that he's paving for himself. If his name was Tij Brody, Tij Pillar, Tij Levitan, he'd still be in our top 10. This guy is an absolute offensive weapon.
Yeah, Tij Iginla is just such an impressive prospect, Ross. It feels like there's guys that we cover that some scouts love, other scouts are lower on. I haven't seen anyone that's like, Tij Iginla, eh. Like everybody is fired up about this guy, and for good reasons. In 64 games with the Kelowna Rockets in the WHL last season, he had 47 goals, 37 assists, good for 84 points, and he kept things rolling in the playoffs. 15 points in 11 games. And Ross, arguably his most dominant performance was at the U18s, where he had 12 points in 7 games. Like he really popped off there. And they're like, I don't even know where to start with Tij Iginla, Ross. Like, where do you want to start with a player like this?
Well, let's discuss how he's an August birthday. So scouts love that they've got extra room to run. He's not going to be 18 until August 1st. He's got the size. We know obviously his old man was one of the most sturdily built NHLers. Couldn't knock Jerome off the puck if you tried, but he's 6 foot, 191 pounds. Tij is I think the highest riser, and I think that's a part of what gets people so excited about Tij is that he was in such a limited role last year when he was with the Seattle Thunderbirds. Now that team was stacked. That team went to the Memorial Cup and was just you understand that they had older players, they acquired guys, and he was 16. Okay, that's fair. He gets this fresh start in Kelowna, and I mean, he moved from center to the wing early on in the year, and it sounds like that really helped him find his stride, find his ability to score. But you look at the rankings across the board, my goodness. Bob McKenzie has him at number 10. Craig Button has him at number 4. And then Elite Prospects is at 6. McKean's at 5. HP.com is at 7. Corey Pronman is at 13, Scott Wheeler at 12. But even Scott Wheeler, because whenever there's guys lower on players that I really like, I go and I check out what they write about him. And look, excellent skaters, what Scott Wheeler says on the puck, he creates, he can do that in different ways. Some NHL scouts may not be sold on him as the public sphere is. But they also say, and this is what kind of surprises me, Pilsy, is that he didn't dominate the U18s the way people would have wanted him to. Now, the points were obviously outstanding, 15 points in 11 games, but some are saying that he got to play with Gavin McKenna, who's going to be the number 1 pick, not next year, but the year after, and his tournament was absolutely outrageous. I would turn their attention to the gold medal game. Yeah, some power play time helped you, still -1 in the game, 6-4 win, but a goal and 2 assists in the final gold medal game, a goal and an assist in the semis, and 2 assists in the quarterfinals. To me, I look for big game players to make plays in big games, and that's what Iginla was able to do. Look, we know he's a shooter, 47 goals, but Pilsy, it's all the little intricacies that you can imagine Tij picked up watching his old man.
Yeah, and that's why he's such a complete player. It's about every little thing that he does. He drives to the net hard. He looks for rebounds and tips. So I think this guy could learn a lot from a guy like Brady Tkachuk. That would be a great mentor there. He's an elite puck protector. Like Ross, you mentioned he's got the size, but not, I don't know, like 6 feet. What do we have him? 6 feet,
191.
Like he's not a big player, but he plays like a big player. And you got to assume he's going to fill out a little bit more like his dad. Probably not all the way Jerome size, but I think he's got some more room to grow, especially with that earlier birthday that you mentioned. He does such a good job of keeping the pace of play going, and he is obsessed with getting to those hard areas of the ice, the slot, the middle of the ice when he's transitioning the puck up the ice. Like he's not someone that's content to just see that a defender's driving in wide and is like, okay, this is my only option. I'm going to drive wide, end up in the corner, and then just toss the puck on the net and hope something good happens. He's like, okay, you want me to go wide? I'm going to battle to get through the middle of the ice here and to get that open space that I so badly want. And then his shot is so good in so many different ways. He's got a powerful wrister. He's got a great one-timer. He loves going for the wraparounds. He really puts a lot of strength into those. And like I mentioned, the hard to get to areas. If you're going to be a player that consistently does wraparounds and people start to take note of that, you can get your bell rung if you're not careful. But Tij Iginla is aware and able to do it at the right time. Wheeler mentions that he's an excellent skater as well, not just speed wise, but he's got great crossovers and he's able to move laterally really nicely. Like, Ross, I know we talked about when we're getting to players this good, we start nitpicking. I don't know about you, but I don't even have a nitpick on Tij Iginla. Like, I don't even have anything where I'm like, needs to work on this, not great on this. Like, even you look at EP's draft guide, and so their ratings are from 1 to 9, 5 being average NHL skill. His skating is his lowest attribute at 5.5. He's shooting 7, passing 7, puck handling 6, hockey sense 7, physical 7. So he's not just above average on most things, he's above average on most things. Like, I got no red flags. I got no negative comments here. I think, Ross, you're not going to be surprised that he is going to make history in Pilsy's Sens Stars when we get to that.
Okay, we're not getting there, though, first, because what I will nitpick is just defensively. He just needs to continue to improve. I mean, he will get there. I'm not concerned at all, but he's a young kid who was thrust into an offensive role. So, of course, he focused on that part of his game. I just think if I'm a team, I want to work on him on defensive positioning and just the little intricacies, because detail-oriented is kind of his calling card in the offensive zone, and I don't think there's any reason why he can't get to being a two-way guy who kills penalties and you can use in all situations. I think that you want to be patient with this player, though. I don't think he's playing in the NHL next year, maybe even not in 2 years. But it doesn't matter 2 years from now. It matters 4, 5, 6 when they're in their prime, and you can just see Tij Iginla just being the type of guy who is a menace to play against in the playoffs. You could see him being a guy who makes his teammates better by putting pucks in areas that they can go and skate into and have space and be able to create good opportunities. And then he can just beat you clean with a shot. The NHL scouts in the industry chatter section of EP's draft guide discuss how that it's an NHL release. It's right there. And I think that that's going to get him 15 goals in and of itself when he's in his prime. And then the way he can create otherwise is just going to help beyond that. So I'm a huge, huge fan of this player. I think that as he grows into his body, his dad, by the way, was listed at 6'1", 210 on that. So if he puts on 20 pounds here, all of a sudden you're tougher to knock off the puck. And I want to see a little bit more physicality along the wall in the offensive zone. He's a great forechecker, but let's focus on winning every battle. And I think you're going to have, I think he's going to go top 5. I think the last name's just going to be the cherry on top. But if you look at the habits and every detail of his game, it's just hard to put 5 guys ahead of him that you're going to want on your team and in your organization.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. And I feel like, Ross, he's the kind of guy you insert into your prospect pipeline and be like, all right, you guys all got to beat him for a job. Good luck. So yeah, I think it's I tried to tease it, but I don't think it's going to be much of a surprise, Ross.
You tried to tease it?
Oh, nice. Tij Iginla is my first 5-star player in the 2024 NHL draft prospect profiles. 5-star players. I know you talked about the defense, Ross, but this kid put up 84 points in 64 games. Like, I'm not about to get on him about defense when he's producing like this. Sure, you wanted to improve, but that's not something that is going to concern me in any way, shape, or form. This is just such a complete player. I think he's going to be a great second line player, especially when he fills out. This is a guy I want for a playoff run. I love Tij Iginla. If the Sens go for him at 7, sign me up.
Tij Iginla comes in at number 10 on our Locked On Senators NHL draft rankings with an average of 8.9. All right, Pilsy, any final thoughts on today's show?
I'd like to congratulate the Florida Panthers on a 2024 Stanley Cup victory. I don't know. I would love for the Edmonton Oilers to make a game of this, but they just seem too banged up. Florida. The thing is, Ross, Florida.
They were the Oilers last year.
Yes. Yeah. Thanks. That's what I was going to get at. That's exactly it. And they know what it's like to be in that position. And they also know what Vegas did to just beat them down when they were down there. So Florida is not going to let off the gas. They're going to step on the Oilers' throats. I think the only thing is that Oilers team is going to be so revved up to at least win one game at home. I think the Oilers get the win at home, and then Florida wins it back on their home turf.
Now, it's also kind of funny that we're having these discussions about, what do the Oilers need to do? Or, I mean, we as in like the general media, typically the national media. The goalie for the Panthers, Sergei Bobrovsky, has a .953 save percentage. We could just throw every other stat out the window.
Yeah.
He has a .953 save percentage, and when he got that shutout in game one that they were dominated in, how much confidence does that give you as a team if you're Florida? We did not play our best. We got dominated by the best players in the world, and they didn't get a single goal. So, yeah, they made it interesting in game three, those 2 goals in the third period. They had a push, but it's not enough. And I'm not going to get on Connor McDavid, a historic playoff, but it'd be nice to see him score a couple too. Like, I know you want to get your teammates involved and you're getting assists, like historic amount of assists, but I'd like to see game 4 as a Connor McDavid, at least one legacy game in this where he gets a hat trick or he gets like a 4 or 5 point night and just explodes offensively. Easier said than done because this Panthers team, they are so locked down defensively. And look at the Atlantic. Hopefully this is like one of those where eventually every empire has fallen in history. The Atlantic Division, what we've seen out of Boston, Florida, and Tampa over this last, half decade? 2019 Eastern Conference champion, Boston Bruins. Then you got Tampa. Then you've got Tampa and Montreal in the Stanley Cup Final, both Atlantic divisions. And then you've had Tampa, Florida now 2 years in a row. Like, this is pretty incredible what the Atlantic Division is doing. So hopefully they fall and the Senators can rise. That's my hope, at least. And hey, maybe if everything kind of flips on its head, maybe we get some Sens Habs battles one day if the Habs can ever figure out how to win a game against Ottawa, let alone a few. I miss the vibe in the CTC from Sens Habs 2013, 2015, and hopefully we can get back to that one day because it's kind of annoying watching the teams in South Florida do so well.
Yeah, Florida, new state of hockey. Minnesota stripped of the title. Florida is hockey.
That's amazing in the saddest way. But hey, congratulations to the Panthers. Hopefully the Stanley Cup Finals is still going on Monday when we have our next show. We're into the top 10, so stay tuned for that. The rumor mill continues. I feel like we're going to see a trade here in the next little while. And if the Stanley Cup Final does end on Saturday, it should note that 48 hours after the Stanley Cup Finals ends, the buyout window opens. So will that be our conversation on Monday? Stay tuned for it. For more Locked On Senators, make sure to head over to YouTube and wherever you get podcasts. 5-star reviews go a long way to helping the show grow as well. Thank you for watching, listening, and engaging with the show. For Brandon Pillar, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been another edition of the Locked On Senators podcast. Your team every day.